Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a 1 in the live chat, and then we can get today's stream started. And as I'm waiting for the ones to come into the chat, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button. That is, of course, the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does, that helps make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will get their notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you're one of those weird ghost watchers who are always watching my channel, but you don't subscribe, please do yourself a favor and myself a favor as well. Hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms to your family and friends to inform them on this news and information. And yes, that does give me a slight boost in YouTube algorithm. And lastly, follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below, and it will be pinned in the comment section after the stream ends. And now that I see that you all can see and hear me clearly, we can get today's show going. Today, I wanted to talk about Simone Sanders, but it's not so much about Simone Sanders as it is about the DNC overall and how upset they are that this lawfare that's been waged upon Biden on Trump isn't going as planned, right? It's not going as planned. Recently, the case in Atlanta, the RICO case in Atlanta, and Trump has another case that he's supposed to be dealing with in Florida, right, concerning documents that he took from the White House, allegedly that he wasn't supposed to take. Both of those trials have been postponed for now. They're holding out hope that the Atlanta trial, they might be able to get it going, but it's not looking good at all. And this is really putting the Democrats in a tailspin as it pertains to what they can do to stop Donald Trump and what they can do to beat him. Because like I said, the lawfare that they're waging on him isn't currently working. Now, lawfare was a new terminology that I was introduced to in the midst of what's happening with Donald Trump. I know what it means now, but many of you may not be fully aware of what that means just yet. So we're going to get into that also, right? I just want to give you all as a quick definition of lawfare. But before we do that, I just want to play a quick MSNBC clip before we get into the Simone Sanders one, because once again, she's upset, doing a lot of screaming and yelling because her job is on the line. And we'll get into that shortly also. But I want to get into this MSNBC clip first that doesn't have Simone Sanders in it, just because, I want people to get a glimpse of just how irritated and desperate the Democrats are for these trials to take place and for Biden, for Trump to hopefully be found guilty, right? So that they can finagle their way into the White House without having to beat Trump directly, but beat him through the court system, right? So let me pull this up first and let's get into this one.
So Glenn, as you look at the overall picture,
you can even hear, so Glenn, they're so mad. They are so upset that this stuff isn't working.
So Glenn, as you look at the overall picture and the impact that this could have on the other overall picture, are we well past the point that we were talking about for so many months, which is that these trials are kind of going to depend on one another? There could be a kind of domino effect. When something happens one place, it impacts the other place. It almost looks like none of that is relevant, at least as we're looking toward the election.
It does feel less and less likely that we're going to get any case other than, obviously, the New York case, which is underway, any of those other cases to trial before the election. I agree with Ken. It's not impossible that we could have at least a first RICO trial down in Georgia before the election. I also think it's unlikely, but let's also keep our eye on the fact that when these big RICO cases end up going to trial, it's not unusual. This was my experience when I was prosecuting RICO cases, for a trial to be set with just a handful of the defendants. And there are 15 charged defendants that remain pending trial in Georgia. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility of perhaps a September trial against a modest batch of defendants down in Georgia, maybe.
So they're trying to get the RICO trial started with just a handful of the defendants. They say, we can't get everybody. Let's at least get, some of the folks. Let's at least take some people down.
3, 4, 5 of the defendants, of course.
And what's interesting about this is that I'm curious, and I should look into it more afterwards, and I will. Understanding how RICOs work, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me in the live chat in the comment section if you're watching the show after it's been aired live. If one person goes down, everybody goes down, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure if they're trying to get the RICO case started with a handful of the defendants, but not all of them. So does that mean if one of them gets found guilty, they all still get found guilty? I'm not really sure how this is working right now, and I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe you guys can help educate me on this, because I'm not really sure, once again, how that works to just do a handful of them, but not all of them. So then if out of a handful of them, one or two get found guilty, then they all get found guilty. That's my interpretation of how a RICO is supposed to work. But I could be wrong. But in either way, they're still thirsty, they're still desperate, and they are still reaching. If they're talking about, let's just get the trial started with just a handful of the defendants, we don't need everybody involved. They are starving for these trials to get underway. And this is almost finished. We're going to wrap this one up in about 30 seconds.
Could include Donald Trump.
Let me rewind that back just a little bit.
Charged defendants that remain pending trial in Georgia. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility of perhaps a September trial against a modest batch of defendants down in Georgia, maybe 3, 4, 5 of the defendants. Of course, it could include Donald Trump. But Chris, as you say, there are cases being played one against another. There are so many moving pieces that I think it becomes harder and harder to see how one of these cases actually make it to trial, other than the one in New York before the election.
And the thing is that it's not looking like that's going to happen. The Florida one is pretty much gone. The Florida trial is pretty much gone. I'm going to get into that shortly, why that one's pretty much done. The Atlanta one, they're still holding out hope, but most likely it's not happening pre-election. It's just not happening. And shout out to my man Cutthroat Nash for being the first person to contribute to today's stream. Almost had me dying laughing in the middle of the stream. He said, "You're late. What happened? Did your AI chip malfunction?" It did malfunction. And Putin had to hit me with a quick system update. They had to do a quick system update. Putin had to, recalibrate the system and, give an update within me. That's why I was running a little late. So you got to blame Putin. It's not my fault. Blame Putin. I'm just here to push misinformation on YouTube. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a Russian bot. You know what I mean? But don't be mad at me for being late. Be mad at Putin. Now, what I want to do next is I want to get into lawfare, right? And just give you guys a quick definition of that term, because like I said, I was unaware of the term lawfare. I didn't know what that was, and I had never heard of that prior to till all these Trump cases that have piled up, right? That's when I was educated on this term, and I know that for some of you that term might be new to you too. So let me give you guys this quick definition, because this is exactly what's happening right now, right? We're watching this lawfare take place in order for Biden to take down Trump. Yet at the same time, the same Democrats that are participating in this are telling you that democracy is on the ballot and all this other stuff that they don't actually believe in. Lawfare is the use of legal systems and institutions to damage or delegitimize an opponent, or to deter an individual's usage of their legal rights. The term may refer to the use of legal systems and principles against an enemy, such as by damaging or delegitimizing them, wasting their time and money, or winning a public relations victory. And that's really what they're hoping they can do, is win a public relations victory, outside of the fact that they would like to throw Trump in jail, right? But they're looking to win that PR victory over Trump. But that isn't working. None of it is working. Remember, I believe it was sometime last week when I went over the new polling data that showed that the hush money trial is not having the desired effect on the voting population in the swing states that the Democrats hoped it would have. In that polling data, I believe they said it was 50% of the people aren't even keeping up with the hush money trial. maybe a little over 50%, like 51% of the people aren't even keeping up with the hush money trial. And the vast majority of the people feel like it's a waste of time to begin with. A vast majority of the people feel like Trump is actually being done wrong. A vast majority of the people are recognizing this to be lawfare, even without possibly even knowing what that term is or even hearing that term, but they recognize it as just something that's unfair. This isn't really just what's happening to him. And therefore, in these swing states, we see that Trump is carrying the lead. I believe it is with the exception of Wisconsin currently, but by and large, he's carrying the lead. Some of these leads are very large. I believe in places like Nevada, where he's up around, what is it, 12 points, something like that, according to the polls. It's not working. The PR battle isn't working. They're wasting his time, trying to keep him off the, trying to keep him off the trail, off the, what do you call it again? That's so irritating. The campaign trail, trying to keep him off the campaign trail. And they're wasting his money too, with all the lawyer fees and whatnot that he has to pay. So all of this stuff is in play right now. They're participating in damaging him, delegitimizing him, wasting his time, wasting his money, and winning the PR battle. But like I said, funny enough, according to the polls, none of this is working. None of this is working at all. And therein the problem lies when you have people like Simone Sanders blowing her top live on television over the fact that she understands that her job may be up for grabs if Biden loses. And I shouldn't say maybe up for grabs. It will be. It will be up for grabs. Now, what I want to do next, before we get into Simone Sanders, is that I want to get into this article right here very quickly. Donald Trump scores another major legal victory. I want to get into these victories that he attained over the past couple of days, which essentially is by way of pushing the court cases back. I want to give you guys a little bit more detail into what's happening with that and who are the players involved in this. So former President Donald Trump scored 2 back-to-back legal victories this week, effectively delaying 2 of the 4 criminal cases against him. An appeals court in Georgia agreed Wednesday to consider Trump's appeal of the disqualification matter related to the Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and attorney Nathan Wade. Judge Scott McAfee, who is overseeing the case in Fulton County, had agreed that Willis could remain on the prosecution in March, so long as Wade, who is in a romantic relationship with Willis, stepped down from the Trump case. Trump and several of his co-defendants in the case have moved to have Willis' office disqualified from the case, citing the district attorney's relationship with Wade. Wednesday's decision is highly likely to delay the potential trial in the RICO case. It follows Judge Aileen, I think I'm saying her name right. It follows Judge Aileen Cannon's Tuesday order, which indefinitely postponed Trump's trial in the classified documents case in Florida. And the Democrats are really mad at this judge. They are very upset with her. And we're going to come back to Aileen Cannon in a moment. But let's carry on with the article first. A day before the Georgia Court of Appeals granted the petition to reconsider the disqualification ruling, Cannon canceled the May trial date for Trump's classified documents case and did not set a new date. Trump is currently standing criminal trial for the hush money case in Manhattan. The latest developments mean there will likely be no other trials against Trump, the presumptive 2024 Republican presidential nominee, until much closer to election day or even after. And like I said, though, the Florida trial, the Florida case isn't happening. That's just not happening at all. That's not happening. The Atlanta one, they're still hopeful for, as we heard earlier. They're going to try and see if they can at least start the trial with at least 3 of the defendants, maybe 5 of them, but that's not looking good as well. Now, what I want to do is that I want to come back to Aileen Cannon, so we know who Aileen Cannon is, and we get a little bit of more of an understanding of why essentially that case got shut down completely. So who's Aileen Cannon, and that everyone's upset with? This is how they describe her, right? The fight is fixed. Legal expert calls out Judge Cannon as a MAGA activist in a black robe. Yes, we have MAGA activists in black robes helping out Trump. They're very upset with this woman right here. Very upset with her. Very upset. Donald Trump took classified documents with him after he left the White House, refused to give them back, and after 2+ years of lying about what he possessed, military secrets, including battle plans and the details of certain nuclear programs, a grand jury finally indicted him last June. The classified document cases could have been history by now, could have been over with the facts already made public, including Trump on tape talking about a document he should not have possessed with people who should not have been told about it. It is likely the once and future Republican nominee would already have been the first former president ever convicted on a crime after leaving office. So they're trying to get the point across that he could have been in jail already for this. He could have been found guilty for this already and should have been found guilty for this already. That's what they're implying, right? But why is that? We're going to get into it right now. This case, and I quote, this case could and should have already been, this case could and should have been ready for trial in December of 2023 or January of this year, according to Joyce Vance, a former U.S. attorney. Who is Joyce Vance? Because she's really salty. This is Joyce Vance right here, because she's upset and she's salty. Joyce Vance is an American lawyer who served as United States attorney for the Northern District of Alabama from 2009 to 2017. She was one of the first 5 U.S. attorneys. She was one of the first 5 U.S. attorneys and the first female U.S. attorney nominated by President Barack Obama. So she's a Barack Obama appointee. That's why she's upset, and that's why she's salty about this situation that's going on in Florida. Now let's get back to that article, right? And I'm going to repeat that paragraph again, or go back into Ms. Vance's quote again. This case could and should have already gone to trial back in December or in January of this year, according to Joyce Vance, a former U.S. attorney. But Trump was fortunate. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon won the lottery to hear the case, making an appointee of the defendant the one to decide if or when the case goes before jurors. I'm going to repeat that again. But Trump was fortunate. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon won the lottery to hear the case, making an appointee of the defendant the one to decide if or when the case goes before jurors. Last week, Cannon formally decided that Trump's trial will be held maybe never. She threw out the May 20 start date and at least, she threw out the May 20th start date and at least exited the paper. Is it exited or existed? I'm malfunctioning now. Okay. She threw out the May 20th start date that at least existed on paper, saying it would be imprudent to set another time for now. The reason Cannon said is that the reason Cannon said is that there are still, okay, so it's not me, it's them. The sentence literally reads, the reason, Cannon said, is that there are still. That wasn't me. They're the ones that are doing that. Is that there are still. Okay. The reason Cannon said is that there are still myriad of and interconnected issues that the judge herself must rule on. In other words, the trial cannot begin because Cannon has not finished the work that she imposed on herself. on question raised by Trump defense's team. Per Vance, we'd be routinely denied hearings by anyone else. If it was anybody else, the stuff would have been denied already. But because it's Trump, it isn't. When people say the fight is fixed, this is the type of stuff they are talking about. Former Justice Department spokesperson Anthony Cooley said on MSNBC, "You have a woman here who intentionally appears to be dragging her feet," he observed, arguing Cannon is less an objective judge and more someone who appears to be a MAGA activist in a black robe. That's what they see her as, a MAGA activist in a black robe. So with that being said, the Florida case, like I said, pretty much isn't happening. It doesn't look like that's really happening at all. The Georgia case isn't going to happen before the election. And as it pertains to the New York case, as it pertains to the hush money trial, it's looking like that's not going to go their way in the courtroom. They're not really sure, but the left isn't necessarily so confident. They're not very confident about it. And even outside of their lack of confidence of things going their way, as it pertains to the desired effect that they wish it would have on the people, as it pertains to this supposedly bad press was supposed to push people away from Trump. In many regards, it appears to be having the reverse effect. And more people appear to be supporting him because they feel as if the hush money trial is a waste of time and it's nonsense. Now, what I want to do is get into Simone Sanders, right? Because a lot of this information that I've been coming across as it pertains to those in mainstream media who are very adamant and the want, need, and desire for Trump to have these top trials move forward so that he could be found guilty. A lot of the angst we see with this comes from MSNBC. MSNBC is very much so a DNC network. It's an unapologetic DNC network. It's unapologetic DNC network. So you'll see oftentimes they're the ones who are the most animated concerning anything revolving Trump. And we're going to see that here right now with Simone Sanders. We're going to watch that here with her right now because she knows that her job is on the line. It's on the line. So let's get into this in closing.
For the people that are watching,
let me rewind that back just a little bit.
For the people that are watching this at home and they are saying, Michael Steele is right. Donald Trump has been able to game the system. And now the only case that the American people are going to see adjudicated before them, and they're going to have to read about it because we can't watch it, is this case, a 2016 election interference case in about falsified documents and the cover-up in Manhattan. And we don't know what the jury is going to do on that. We don't know if they're going to go so far and say, yes, he was trying to cover it up and he did these bad things. They may not get to all of those things.
So you see, they're very concerned that the case in and of itself is not going to go the way that they thought it was. It's not a slam dunk at all. By any means is it a slam dunk. Let me wind that back just a little bit.
To cover it up and he did these bad things. They may not get to all of those things. They may not come down on that. So I just, it's very disconcerting because we witnessed all of these things. We saw him do it. We saw him hold the documents. We saw him. We heard him on the tape.
Her voice is extremely annoying.
These things. We saw him do it. We saw him hold the documents. We saw him. We heard him on the tape.
But there is hope, though.
Where?
At the end of the day, I mean, this.
There's not going to be any hope for your job. Your job is definitely on the line. There's no hope for that.
This is we the people. We are going to have to. Hope, though.
Where?
At the end of the day, I mean, this is we the people. We are going to have to step up and vote in historic numbers, Simone. We did it in 20.
Did we really vote in historic numbers the first time around? Did we really vote in historic numbers the first time around? I'm still trying to figure that out. You know, if those historic numbers were, on the up and up. I don't know. I don't want to say too much because you get in trouble for that on YouTube. But were those historic numbers for real? Were they for real? I don't know. I don't know.
Going to have to step up and vote in historic numbers, Simone. We did it in 2024. This man has never gotten more than 47% of the vote. Yes. Now, it's going to be a close election. It always is, right? Yeah. But for 44,000 votes in 3 states, Donald Trump would be president right now. So we can't be comfortable. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the people to do what we do in democracy, and that's to go to the polls in historic numbers.
I want to play what he just said again one more time in closing. I want to listen to that for myself one more time.
People, we are going to have to step up and vote in historic numbers, Simone. We did it in 2024. This man has never gotten more than 47% of the vote. Yes. Now, it's going to be a close election. It always is, right? Yeah. But for 44,000 votes in 3 states, Donald Trump would be president right now. So we can't be comfortable.
44,000 votes in 3 states is the reason that Donald Trump isn't president right now, according to what he's saying.
Now, it's going to be a close election. It always is, right? Yeah. But for 44,000 votes in 3 states, Donald Trump would be president right now. So we can't be comfortable. But at the
44,000 votes in 3 states. And I've been saying this so many times in the pre-recorded videos, right? Outside of the live stream, the today's news videos. If 44,000 votes is essentially what kept Trump out of the White House, as he's saying here, then with all that Biden has on his back, with the alleged, I got to say alleged, because with black folks, I got to see it to believe it, because you all know the voting Democrat is a religion. But with allegedly somewhere around 20% of black people are allegedly going to vote Republican. We'll see about that. We'll see if that pans out. But they are having trouble with the black vote. I don't know if it's going to be 20% worth of trouble, but they are. But with that, as well as having some trouble with the Hispanic vote, and with the young vote is essentially out the window. The youth, they're all into what's going on over in the Middle East, and the young vote, the youth vote is pretty much gone completely. I do not see a path to victory for Biden. The only path to victory that I see him having, as I stated in almost every video now, is that 2020 magic. And we all know what that 2020 magic is. And I'm not even going to repeat what the 2020 magic is. I'm not going to, because I say it so much. If you want to know what the 2020 magic is, then you got to ask somebody in the comment section, and somebody will inform you. And trust me, I'll be repeating the 2020 magic theory all year, which isn't really a theory, But yeah, if Biden isn't able to pull off that 2020 magic again, I don't see how he wins. It's not possible. It's not possible. If 44,000 votes is what kept Trump out, and he's having this much trouble with the black vote, the Hispanic vote, and the youth vote, the young voters, it's over. It's over. Trump's going to win easily, unless Biden's able to, sprinkle some of that 2020 magic on it again, But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And with all that being said, that does it for today's show. Real quickly too, before I end it, going back to Simone Sanders, like I said, her job is on the line. You see them get this animated coming this close to election season, because the only reason Simone Sanders is sitting in the seat that she's sitting in now on MSNBC is because of her loyalty towards Biden during the election of 2020. How many of you all remember when she literally tackled a protester who was running up on stage to approach Biden? She tackled the protester. She reacted faster than Secret Service. Simone Sanders literally reacted faster than Secret Service. A protester went on stage and tried to approach Biden. She tackled him like a linebacker. Secret Service couldn't even get to that guy fast enough. Simone Sanders, boom, got him out of there. She was loyal to the soil for Biden. So loyal. And what she was really hoping for was that she was going to get that White House press secretary job that Karine Jean-Pierre has. She was really hoping that she would get that job, but she didn't get it. Instead, they gave her this kind of flim-flam, fugazi, made-up position with Kamala Harris. I don't even remember what it was called. And then when everybody started leaving Kamala Harris's office, all of her aides and whatnot, it was the same time that Simone Sanders got the call to do this show on MSNBC, which comes on the weekend. It's some show that nobody watches. That's why I don't even know the name of it. I think it's just called Symone, if I'm not mistaken. But like I said, trust and believe. If Trump wins, she's out. Because MSNBC essentially is just a DNC network. It's obvious they're very unapologetic about that. And if Trump wins within the first year of Trump's administration, new administration, they're going to pull her out of there and they're going to rearrange their roster to get ready for the 2026 midterms. Mark my words, she'll be out of there before the 2026 midterm. They're going to rearrange the roster. And after that, she'll just go away forever. You won't really see or hear from her anymore. So she's very concerned about that because she wants to keep her job. She's eating very well. She gets paid very well. So you're going to see a lot more of that kind of outrage and angst coming from her in the future. But with all that being said, that does it for today's show. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. Shout out to my man Saul for coming through as he always does. He says, just here to show support. Shout out to Lloyd Sky 9 who says, salute your highly informative stream. I appreciate you, Lloyd Sky 9, and I appreciate you guys sitting with me through that last article where I was glitching out pretty bad. It was written kind of flim flam and fugazi too. That one last sentence at the end, they wrote it backwards. So it wasn't all me, but I don't know. It looks like I might still need a system update, another one. They might need to update my programming in Russia. Shout out to Kurt Alton. He said, drop and replay gang in advance. You're competing with Tim Black reviews right now, but I just want to show love. I appreciate you coming through, Kirk, and showing love to the stream. And shout out to Tim Black too. Shout out to Tim Black. I'm sure he's doing his thing over there on his channel. So once again, thank you all for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Hit the like button on your way out. Follow me on share this video out on your social media platforms, and don't forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. And I will catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.